robust. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely took the time for some R&R over the break, which I feel like we all deserve. But just kind of touching base with some of these things. And I don't know about the ad hoc committee rules, but I don't know if we need to meet monthly or if we, plan on meeting another once or so over the semester. I kind of wanted to get a feel from you guys on that, so be thinking about that. But we can go ahead and start the meeting here, and then so we'll do action to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll motion.
I'll motion.
Dean can have it.
How about I'll second Daniel?
One of those. Don't care.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Cool. Meeting minutes passed. So any review, any updates? Like I said, I'll be honest with you, I didn't do too much over the break on what we were working on last time, but I think at this point we did have that big jump in getting Turnitin upgraded, which was a good thing, and then the trainings for that, so that was a big move. But as far as benchmarking, I know that I talked to Yvonne, and she said that her counterpart at UNLV, that she wasn't able to meet with her yet with everything that's been going on at UNLV in restructuring. So with that, I don't know if there's necessarily an update there. Anything on best practice page, Dean?
I haven't worked on that.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I took the same break, and then just getting back up to speed, there's a lot of balls in motion right now. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's in the thinking stage. And then I don't see Suzanne or Yvonne in here, so with the committee best practice pages. But again, this meeting's one that just kind of touching back base and seeing, getting everyone refocused. So if nothing has happened, that's totally okay, but just that it's on our minds. Does anybody have anything that they want to add about Turnitin, either from the trainings or what you're seeing now, that you'd like to discuss? I've noticed this, as we've started, as I've started to grade this first semester of things coming in, that it's a lot more sensitive with the AI detection stuff. I actually had a meeting with a student today whose assignment came up as 85% AI detection. And when I spoke with them, they were saying that, they use Grammarly just as a word enhancer. So keeping that in mind, but I don't know. It's just one of those things that we're going to have to continue to be vigilant about, and questioning students. There's been some lawsuits coming out about, I don't know, at other universities with instructors accusing versus questioning. So I think that along those best practices that we were talking about is going to be important moving forward too. So.
Yeah, I liked in the training that the Turnitin guy emphasized that as well. He's like, this isn't 100%. We can't do 100%. So you want to have a conversation with your student, like, hey, that's just what we said.
Yeah. So it's good that we're
I did have a smart student in my 101 class point out that spell check and word suggestions in Word is AI from their perspective. So then they asked if they could even use that. And I was like, see, this is where I was afraid we were going to get into dicey word choices, because we're assuming that students come with all of our knowledge and contact and have sat through all these conferences with us and are completely aware. And these are high school students that are looking at me going like, wait, I can't use Wikipedia, I can't do this, you're saying there's no such thing as a unique idea, I'm totally confused, and I'm like, welcome to college.
I think that's also why we used the term generative AI earlier in our policy. So it's like, okay, yeah, we know that spell check and grammar check are AI, but we're talking about the stuff that just writes it for you, bro.
We're talking about where you put in what I wrote in my assignment and then it gives you a whole paper.
Right. Before AI really hit the fan, I had been not instructed, but other professors had suggested that I suggest Grammarly to my students for those who really needed some extra help that way. And I guess that's considered AI as well.
And that's kind of where like the crux that I'm at right now is like I use Grammarly. You know what I mean? Like it's a tool that I use. I don't think that it's not a useful and worthwhile tool, but to what extent, you know what I mean, is it being used? Because there is the generative portion of it. So I don't know. I was wondering your guys' opinions on that too. Just that, you know, at this point, what is
I just think
Grammarly
there
look
has
like?
to be a balance
Yeah.
for everybody. There just has to be a balance.
Yeah, and I think our current policy of leaving it up to the instructor how much they want in their class is the best policy. It's like we want a policy for this college that will back up the instructor and then suggestions for the instructors, and that's like otherwise hands off. It's like if an instructor is all about Grammarly, they let them be all about Grammarly. We're not saying they're not useful tools. In fact, we're saying these are really useful tools in the right settings.
Definitely. Yeah, and that was kind of I rebuilt all my courses before the semester to include a lot more AI integration because I think that it is important that students are able to use it, and it's a tool that I don't know, friends that I have in industry that they're dissuaded from not using these tools. So giving the students the ability to successfully use them and responsibly use them, I think is just as important.
Yeah, I'm seeing something similar. I'm working on the professional writing certificate and setting up those things in my professional communication class. And I compared it a lot like teaching nurses not to use, like, you must use your watch and a stethoscope to be able to tell these things because the current technology is just too easy and it can replace you, so you don't want to do that. And it's like, the industry is doing it. Trust me. All you have to do is watch, and even the influencers that these kids are interacting with are doing things like people talking about best practices in employment that we've never discussed as Gen Xers. Like, how do I say, no, you're not taking away my 2 weeks vacation because of your emergency type thing? These people are using AI to kind of formulate a better way of saying something than what they would originally say. So that's kind of how I'm using it. But I like Daniel's point. It's leave it up to the instructors. We've set a general meta, and we can move forward from there.
Definitely. Was anybody able to jump into the SLO symposium on Friday and or Saturday?
I did. It was really good.
It was, yeah.
It made me feel so much more connected with, you know, other professors.
Definitely. That was such a good resource. I wish that I just didn't know what it was. So I'm so glad that you shared and I jumped in. But if you haven't, the sessions are recorded. So you can go in, and there were some really good ones in there on tons of topics. I think there were like 10 or 11 sessions per session block. So if you know, with all the free time that we all have, go ahead and check those out. Anybody else have anything?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
Okay. There was, I'm trying to remember because I should have written it down, and I know it's in the minutes, but with the discussion in Faculty Senate last time, there seemed to be some suggestions for changes for the overall, the cheating policy changes we made, but I wasn't sure if there were any strong conclusions. Did we need to go back and revisit that one more time, or were we good there?
I think we just needed to add in artificial intelligence, AI. I think that was
Okay.
the conclusion of Faculty Senate was that we
Okay.
needed to clarify what AI was.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure we could
Yeah.
move on from that piece at least.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry about that, Stacy. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. I've heard discussion about AI as faculty using it as a grading assistant. Sam Spearing had mentioned it, and so I know I've been on an email chain with Amber and Mary asking this committee to look at that. As far as best practices for faculty, we all should use tools that are available. Whether that's a good tool to use or not, I think is questionable or should be looked at. Whether it's fair to our students, right? Grading assistance, I don't know. We kind of talked about it briefly when we were going to those trainings, like at the beginning of fall, if I can remember correctly, but
Interesting. I'm wondering.
I heard it was inconsistent. Those trainings said it was kind of inconsistent, right? But
That's kind of like what everybody says about everything AI is doing right now. Like, and it's inconsistent, but we're getting there. Yes.
But I know Sam was approached by, I think it's somebody showing him a demo of AI to help grade papers and stuff. It'd be a cost and stuff, but I think it comes to this committee to look into more.
Stukent is what you're talking about, Stacy. Stukent. We get like spam from them every now and then.
Really?
I
don't know what it is.
I'm already put off by the word Stukent. That's the only reason. As an English person, it sounds like somebody couldn't spell student and then just went full send and owned their mistake. But yeah, and all the conferences I've been attending on this and talking to people, it's from composition, from that point of view, right? That context.
Yeah.
Our work is too qualitative for us to let AI do it, so it's not normalized in our part of the industry. I can say that. I have not heard anything or seen anything, and I am absolutely an edgelord for AI. I think it's a massive tool for you. I mean, you hear me talk and preach about it. I have a pulpit, and I'm, that type of thing. But anyhow, yeah, I haven't heard anything come from the English part where it's actually used. I did hear during these conferences it get mentioned. The ones that Daniel and I attended, actually, it was mentioned. But the guy said he did it, but then he never actually said, like, how he did it. So...
Well, at least one of them, he said that what he would do was feed the AI, like, somehow he could feed it responses that he had done before to papers. I'm not sure if I've been to so many of these, I'm not sure if it was one you were in or not. But he would feed it responses he had done before with papers that he'd done those responses on, and then he'd let it do the whole batch. Which actually really bothered me, but I'm not an English teacher, but I'm just like, so you
That's right.
don't actually know what your students did? The AI does
So
that
what he
for
was
you?
talking about is when you have a lot of papers to look over, you come up with a key, like I've had professors do this when I was in my undergrad. They had a cheat sheet that they handed the students at the beginning of the first day. It had numbers or letters or some kind of code system. And when you look through your paper, and I'm sure that you guys have seen this in some way, shape, or form, it had those codes like WR, SP, those type of things. They just have taken that and turned it into feedback. So it's like, it looks like you have a problem with spelling. This is what I say to all my students. We already do that. We create a Word document because if there's consistency in the same problem, there's no point in writing in each response, literally typing in the same sentence.
Copy and paste our response.
So I think what this guy did is took that and then told AI, these are the algorithms that count for these. Like there's a lot of prompt engineering built into something like that. You're talking weeks of prepping the machine to understand what you're asking it to, and then you feed it papers and it would spit out, it would make those connections. He didn't say whether that was his only grading system. He just said that he was using that for remarks back to students to make it consistent. That's the only way I could see it actually. Daniel is right. That's the only way I could see it being used effectively like that. I don't think Daniel could tell it Well, I guess you could give it your math homework and have them grade it for you, but it wouldn't.
Math, or they actually have some AI math graders they're working on that are pretty darn good because math has, step, 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 step. It's not like there's a lot less of the qualitative, oh, I like this, and it's more like, I don't know why you're doing this. That's not the right step at all, right? So it's actually pretty easy with math. None of us that I know use it because it's usually built into an LMS right now, and it's not built into the LMS we're currently using. So
I'm sure it's not far out,
Yeah.
but I think that that's a really good thing that I hadn't thought about in looking into that and what the
Guidelines or recommendations
or
for
the
faculty,
expectations. Yeah.
expectations to use or not use, or a limit, or whatever it is, like, probably should come out of this committee.
Yeah.
because there is some concerns on my end. It's like, even with the ones for math, it's like, so I'm not looking at my own students' work. How do I know which student needs what kind of help? If I automate that process, if the computer is going in and saying this one has spelling errors, this one has grammar errors, that's still not the same as, oh, I keep a Word document where I cut and paste comments, because with the Word document, at least you're reading their papers, right?
Well,
and
you
you're
have to
editing
read
those
it.
if they need to be, right? Like, you've got general comments that you tend to make for students, and then you edit those if you need to for that student.
But you're talking about you're talking about surface revision and grading versus deep structural errors, which if you're reading a student's paper, if it's got enough errors on it, I don't know about you, but I've been editing papers for so long, I have to run spell check and fix it so I can just get through it, because it will drive me mad seeing those surface errors. So
with stuff like that, you're hitting into, I'm math, I'm not English, so no, I haven't experienced that.
But we also don't value spelling. I mean, it's a symbol system. We don't value spelling and grammar over organization, structure, purpose, all these other factors that are much more rooted in what we're doing. We're not grammarians, and so I just want to defend that point from an English teacher. Sorry.
It's the same way, even in my courses where it's not, the expectation isn't focused on, grammar and proper structure and spelling, but it's still part of it. You can't submit a paper that is illegible and think that that's acceptable. So, I mean, it's a skill that's very important across all. So, I don't know, determining if that side of it, I don't know. We're gonna have to look into this. I haven't looked into any grading assistant. I don't know why I didn't, but
sounds like there's a company that'd be really happy to talk to us about it.
Yeah.
I still say it comes down to, having balance. And as a social work professor, what I'm trying to do is teach them how to read people. And it's crazy because, there's kind of this threat that AI could automate almost any industry. And I'm like, no, it couldn't automate social work. But at the same time, what am I teaching my students? I'm teaching them how to read body language. I'm teaching them what the appropriate responses are. So to a certain extent, I'm helping them understand how to automate their own responses to a client. Now they also have to work through their own emotions, so it doesn't end up being about them instead of the client. I mean, it's kind of complex. But I'll tell you what, now this might be totally off the wall, but I was watching the movie WALL-E with my grandboys the other day, and that's why I say it comes back to balance. If you know that Disney movie WALL-E, they basically, AI takes over what's left of the population of the planet, and there has to be kind of a little cartoon battle to get it back. And so I feel like that's where we are. We're just trying to help use it in the best way that we can, because it's already there. We're not going to change the fact that it's there, and that high schoolers are coming to us understanding it better than I do, And so we need to learn it and understand it, but we just have to be able to create balance. And I feel I want to create a PowerPoint presentation for my students using WALL-E as, kind of a metaphor for what and help our students be intrinsically motivated to become the writers and the professionals that we want to help them grow to be, rather than having it be us against them, you know, trying to catch them cheating, because that's silly. You know, they're college students. It's not third grade. So anyway, that's my thought.
I think that's a great thought, and something that, you know, we're all trying to figure out and find that balance, whatever that is, and being relevant in the changes that are happening, but also, you know, rooted in our in our content, in our career, and, you know, in teaching. And
you know, a resource that I feel like goes unused a lot is the Munch Bites that are provided for the faculty every Thursday at noon. And I mean, they're provided, but it seems like every other one of those is on AI. And I feel like I have a better understanding because of attending those. And I think it would be totally cool to see more faculty attend that and support our faculty support people who provide those for us, or at least watch the videos that come out on Mondays.
I wonder if we could, I don't know, support that some way, because I'm guilty of that too. I don't watch them, but I would like to. Like in my head, I think they're very interesting sounding. I just
Well, it's a really fun discussion time for me. You know, it's a time I get to connect with other professionals about what I'm learning, and you know, I mean, Thursdays at noon, they've tried to make it be something that's pretty accessible to everybody.
let's keep that in as an idea and try and get your neighbors involved. See? Just kidding. Dean, do you want to add anything to that comment that you put in the chat? No?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I literally just closed the chat box and opened it. I just thought I have observed some part-timers that use Pearson for part of the framework for their course, or something like Pearson, right? And so I wonder if we do think about how we're wording that, if we have to consider that, because it's already normalized for, like, one example I could give would be like foreign languages, right? People that are using that software for their foreign language course because it helps manage things a little more effectively for them. I know they're doing it already, so it's not even AI driven, but it's already product driven.
Okay. Great thought. Lots of good thoughts today, guys.
Hello, everybody. Robert Hunton here. I don't know how to exactly express what I'm going to say here, but I think it needs to be talked about, and I may have missed some dialogue because I was late to the meeting. But one of the things I find with my students is their ability to generate writing from scratch. And I know that we're academics, and mostly you guys are. I'm in the CTE field. But I wonder, taking all of this AI into account and whether or not it should be used in our classes, if we accept it or not, if it is accepted, how do we accept it in a way that still has the student be able to express spontaneity in their writing? Because let's just face it, the AI generation is going to produce materials from here on out that are better and better and more thoughtful and expressing ideas in succinct ways that are multifaceted. And when a student reads that generation, it may enable their understanding better than them trying to come up with something on their own by research and or just finding empirical data. And I don't know, like I said, how to say this, but I feel like what's being lost here is the student's requirement to sit at the desk with a pencil and paper, and I know this is so old and rudimentary, and create something that is really theirs. And so this might sound kind of cheesy, but I feel like there's a level of pride involved that the students may not know they have the ability to access an area of their brain that's, it's amazing, right? We all have this creative side to us. And school sometimes is just thought of something to get through rather than something to hone our ability and make ourselves stronger with our ideas. So I don't know why I wanted to say that, but I just feel like it's pertinent to what we're looking at here. I know it doesn't entirely have to do with AI, but any thoughts? It's kind of
I totally hear what you're saying. And one of the things I talk to my students about is how different a writing experience is when it's pen and paper, you know, versus typing. I mean, I think you use a different part of your brain. And I know my writing is more creative when I'm, you know, handwriting something. And when I was doing clinical work, I would find solutions for my clients through the writing process of writing up a session. I would find solutions through that writing process. And I don't know, and it's very, very different than typing up, you know, what I'm learning or recording what I'm learning. And so I hear what you're saying, and I think that's something, again, we have to try to get to the point that our students are intrinsically motivated and, you know, wanting to grow for the sake of growth and not just so that they can hold up a degree and say, you know, I'm done with that, check that off the list.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, I agree with that. There's such value. The learning process is the real value, not the paper, right? And in the 21st century, where everything's so accelerated, so often people just want to get through it rather than soak up the juice. And I don't know how to change that because it's kind of the world we live in. By being inspiring instructors and trying to show these guys they've got more than they think.
I definitely see your point, and this is a conversation that I'm having with my husband all the time because he is very old school on his thinking of things, that he's like, I don't understand it and I don't want to, and thank goodness you are, so that we aren't going to live under a rock. But like that, that it's a very scary thing, and it's a very scary idea of what is available and what's going to be. But I think the crux of it for me, or like the intersection point here, is like the relevancy that there is, and this next generation may not ever know what it's like to sit down and write a creative story unless they want to on a piece of paper. But just that outlet, figuring out how we can successfully and motivate students to step into that world and maybe see that creative process a different way, or you know, implementing what is there and what will be most relevant, you know, in their future. But I totally get it. As a former journaler, I I understand that feeling of getting your thoughts down on a solid piece of paper.
Thanks, Madison. When I was in the service a long time ago now, seems like it wasn't a long time ago, in 2000, I bought myself a laptop, and I would go and sit in a cafe or on the back of the ship and free write. And it was really an experience to be able to formulate thoughts and observe my surroundings and get them out on paper in a way that, with the idea that somebody might read it one day, right? Although that's all gone now. And so when I said write it with pen and paper, what I really meant was, and I everything you all said was valid regardless, is just that ability to generate ideas. And so maybe that ability to generate ideas, maybe we're looking at something altogether different here. And that ability to generate ideas comes from instantaneously having information at your fingertips, which you can peruse and take bits and pieces of and sew them together to make them your own thoughts. I mean, obviously that's kind of, as far as the English portion goes, I know this doesn't necessarily apply to math unless you are creating new math.
Not at
Which is
this
an
college.
which is an art in and of itself.
Right. Well, I apologize if it came across, I didn't mean to come across snarky with the pen and paper comment. My point was, this is such a broader topic than this. That would be like me saying something like, I noticed we have a parking lot full of cars that people came to work in today, but they all live within 2 miles. And I come from a position where creative thinking and who you are and development comes from being alone by yourself for a few minutes. So the walking 15 minutes to me, that's what I mean. It just starts to turn into a bigger snowball.
Sure.
To say that. So like critical thinking is super important. I think you're right that we're losing critical thinking because we're allowing technology to do it. I guess my problem or my rub to it all is that we learned how to do things on pen and paper, for example, like math, just like you're saying. And now kids who don't come to school with a calculator can't take the tests type thing. But I would say that at some point, if we didn't, I've never touched an abacus. I don't know about the rest of you, but they sound really interesting and they look really cool in memes and pictures. But I would say that somebody who used that technology would probably have the same meta problem with technology that we're seeing. So I think that's what we're really seeing is technology kind of scary, but as we have to adapt to it because it's going to adapt us, is what I'm saying. So.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dean. That was well said.
Yeah, and I think the calculator is the comparison that makes the most sense to me all the time with this. This is essentially an English calculator, which is why I think we got to focus on the instructor being able to do it by class, because my 6-year-old does her math on paper still because she's learning to add, and okay, my 6-year-old's learning to multiply, but she's learning those basic skills that, we let the calculator take care of that once we understand them, but we need that basic foundation, or when we get to algebra, there's a lot of things that no longer make sense. And there's some classes where they're going to have to say no to the AI, right? Because we're developing those skills that the AI is taking over for people. So in this class, no, you can't use AI. I'm sorry, right? It's like the calculator is a really apt comparison, because there are places where we do not let kids use calculators. They've got to develop those skills themselves, or they won't understand later, right?
And I think that's such a good point, and something that has been a focus for me is you have to have those foundational skills of being able to prompt and having those baseline ideas, or being able to you have to be able to give AI enough to get you what you want. That you can put in a prompt or a question or whatever, but that most of the time is not what you're looking for first time out. So being able to prompt and massage what you're asking for to be something that is relevant is, a critical skill as well. So developing that is something that I'm focusing on in my classes that I am using this. But, same thing as a calculator. If you don't have if you don't understand PEMDAS, then you aren't going to get the correct output from the calculator. So I think that is a good point. Awesome. Well, great discussion, guys. Great ideas. Anything else?
One of the other things that we brought up last semester that it's not here, so I don't know where that went, but we had a bit of a discussion about how, we all can see that this is something that is becoming important for students. Are we still thinking about finding a way to recommend that we get a class on this? Because seriously, if it's this important, then we're not serving our students well if somebody isn't teaching them how to use it. And all I'm getting from doing all of these symposiums and stuff is that, we need somebody to sit down and teach students what prompt engineering is and how to critically read the AI stuff and all that.
And I think you can go ahead, Dean.
Super short. I just don't think we've reached a point where that everybody wants ownership and agency of it, but it's going to be I think that's going to take decades before that. And even then, I think we're still going to see it as an argument much like most other areas that cover so many different spaces, because I would say that I'm sure that computer science thinks it owns it. I'm sure that English thinks it owns it, or Rec Comm thinks it owns it. So I don't know if we could even hone in on that one.
And that's kind of along the same thread that I have, is that I think that we need to encourage it to be implemented across courses. You know what I mean? That those skills should be taught within the disciplines or within a course on how the expectation is, because it's the same thing as, you know, any other type of assignment or writing or whatever, that it depends on the instructor on how it's presented and how, you know, you want that output to be. So I think more than a class, having faculty integrate it well into their courses on whatever level or capacity that they are willing to. I think that that's the important thing, that, you know, having a consistency of prompt engineering, or, you know, talking about those things is probably more relevant. And that might just be my opinion, but if you, you know.
Yeah, it's just, there are already courses popping up at other colleges, so it's going to get to us eventually, or people are going to go elsewhere for what they need.
Something to keep in mind, for sure. I mean, I would love to, but I have no, I still feel like such a novice in all of it that,
Well, yeah, I wasn't saying one of us should
Oh, for
necessarily
sure.
teach it, but
Mhm.
it's just something that we might want the college to consider. But, you know, I'm okay either way. It's just brought up last semester, and I didn't know if we wanted to go further into that or not. If we don't want to, I'm fine with that.
Great idea, thank you. Any other thoughts? Do you guys want to keep this as a monthly meeting? Like, I definitely don't mind. It's a fun hour for sure. Or do you want to, you know, have our meeting twice per semester? What are you guys thinking? Any thoughts? Okay, we'll keep it monthly then.
I like it monthly.
Okay. Great. I really want to this month focus in on that. The faculty grading assistance, I'm going to be researching that and looking at what that looks like, and options for that. Not necessarily that I want to implement it, but I think that it's something that should be discussed. So, yeah. Great. Didn't have a whole lot, but we had a great discussion. We'll plan for February, and hopefully we can get some of those benchmarkings and start figuring out what best practice things are for faculty in the committee. Hopefully get some, I don't know, some sort of content out to faculty. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But I would like to send out some sort of info to faculty by the end of the semester. So it's kind of my goal. Well, thank you all for jumping in. I know that it was last minute meeting. I promise we will have a better scheduled thing going on for February. And yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madison.
Yep, have a great day.
Record.